Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Unleash Your Potential podcast. My name is John Brucato. I'm here with a very special guest. Listen, I'm flying solo today. Robert Avidia is literally flying today somewhere over the Midwest right now, coming back to Texas. But hey, I'm so excited. I've been wanting to have Maria Turner on our podcast for months. I mean, she is just an amazing person. You know, what she's doing right now to empower women and to bring value or help them grow their inner value. Let me say that. It's just an amazing thing. And there's a lot that we're going to unpack in the next few minutes. So Maria, good morning.
Good morning, John. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. We had talked about doing this a while ago, just trying to figure out the right date and whatnot, But, I'd love for us just to start off. Just, you had a recent event over the last few months. What happened a couple of months ago?
Had a baby.
Oh man, that's exciting.
The third one.
Yeah. So you've got 3 kids. And how old is your oldest?
8.
No kidding. Okay. And then, and your youngest is just a few months old, right?
Yep, just a few months old, and then we've got the second one that's 5.
Yeah. Okay, wow. So you've got them in different stages of life. It wasn't necessarily back to back to back. It's pretty well spaced out.
Yeah, and that was on purpose for sure, to have a little bit of space in between, kind of enjoy each one with their own time growing up, and then before adding another. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. This is my wife and I are doing. Well, she's orchestrating that, right? I just said yes, ma'am, and just tell me when to show up, right? And I'll do my thing, right?
Good husband.
yeah, that's great. You need to sleep right now?
Yes and no. Yep, getting sleep, but I've kind of gotten used to running on limited sleep, so 4 hours has never felt so refreshing.
Right. I remember that. I mean, my daughter's only a little over a year, so it hasn't been that long, right? So I remember that.
It goes fast, yeah. It feels like just yesterday, as you probably know, even just with a 1-year-old, it's like, oh, wow, okay, that was already a year.
Yeah. It's crazy, and does your 8-year-old and 5-year-old help out a little bit or what?
So 8-year-old, yes, to an extent. She loves, interjecting herself to, I'll get him, I'll do this, whatever. But as soon as he starts getting too fussy, her attention span shortens very, very dramatically.
Yeah.
A minute or two, and it's like, okay, you got to take him.
Oh, that's
So she's helpful where she can. The 5-year-old, he's good for about 10 seconds, and then he's off going to do the next thing.
Else.
He's just very all over the place.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing environment, though, and I love that your kids get involved. I see things on the internet, and I have friends that have multiple kids, and they say that, like, when you have, somebody that's like 10, 8, 9, 10, maybe older, it's almost like, they can take some of that burden off of you, just a little bit.
For sure. Yes, she really can. Like, she does as much as she possibly can. To help. So I'm very appreciative.
Yeah. And obviously, you and your husband are tag team and you guys are doing what you can. But he works full time, right?
He works full time and shift work. So that is, I'm the primary when it comes to figuring out schedules because I can always predict my schedule.
Sure.
His is a lot more challenging. When he's around to help, fantastic, great. I kind of build that in, but when he's not, it really falls on me. So we tag team the best that we can, and he's there whenever he can. So
yeah. Well, and why don't you share with everybody actually? Because obviously you're a business owner. Why don't you share with everybody what you do?
Yes, so I am a boudoir photographer, and I, help empower women in a lot of different ways. They come in for different reasons and stories, whether it be confidence or maybe they're getting married or even divorced, or they just had a baby, or they want to document their pregnancy body. So, gosh, I could list a million reasons why people do this.
Yeah, well, I think it's very misunderstood and very empowering.
Yes.
We have some mutual acquaintances, and I know a lot of people that feel very strongly about what it does for their confidence and what it does to allow them to share some of their inner and outer beauty, right, with the world. So I think it's a very special thing, and very misunderstood. What made you want to pick boudoir photography over everything else?
Honestly, I think a lot of it just comes from my own personal background, and it's not something that makes me unique in the sense that women we fight our own insecurities. It doesn't matter what you look like, how old you are, or what your body looks like. Everyone has something about themselves that they could use an extra little push of confidence.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think the most important part is to normalize our imperfections and see it in a more beautiful way. Because especially with social media and everything else, like we are constantly getting bombarded with beautiful imagery. And so I'm no different in the fact that I share beautiful imagery of women. But the important part is just seeing that these are everyday people. They're not necessarily models. And when you normalize these imperfections, it helps over time collectively within the industry by sharing to reduce the taboo more and more and more. So as younger generations are coming up, they can see more people like them out in public and be like, oh, that's beautiful, and I look like that, so I can do it too. Yeah,
well, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's really just allowing people that are not, models or whatever it might be, feeling empowered in their own skin, right? Where they might not previously. So that's special. That's very special. Now, do you shoot all over Houston? Do you have a studio? Do you go to people? How does that work?
So I have a studio that people come to me. I have a certain style and aesthetic that people come to me specifically for.
Sure.
And so I do design that studio space. There's a lot of thought process that goes into designing my sets and stuff so that I can make sure that I'm marketing a consistent product that I can deliver to people.
Yeah. And so when you were thinking about going into business for yourself, what was the conversation that you and your husband were having about doing that?
So, funny story. I was teaching at the time.
Oh,
so this is very far right of being a teacher. And what was funny about it is I come from a scientific background. My degree is in chemistry.
Oh, wow.
So everything is very research-based.
Yeah.
So I knew before I would even think to present this to my husband that I would have to do I need to be prepared for any question he might have about it, because I didn't even own a camera at the time.
Yeah.
And I was talking about quitting my job and just diving in.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he was very supportive with this idea because I had already done a lot of research beforehand.
Sure.
So when I presented the idea, it was kind of like he took a deep breath and he's like, I support you. I know your personality is very go-getter. Like, you're not going to just fail.
Right.
He's like, but I feel like it's worth mentioning, like, just don't fail.
Yeah.
I'm here for you, but don't fail.
Yeah.
So it was just a huge risk to leave the security of my job to starting a whole new profession, business, not knowing where that next paycheck is going to come from, and then just kind of diving in. But we were both on the same page of, if you're going to own a business, you have to be all in. You can't be 1 foot in and then still be teaching, especially with the nature of what I do.
Oh, yeah.
I was very under wraps as I was practicing behind the scenes. And then once the school year was over, I put in my resignation, and then I was able to more publicly announce what I was doing.
Sure.
Yeah, just in case.
No, I'm with you 100%. Now, were you teaching somewhere else, or were you here in the Metro Houston area?
I was here.
Okay. Okay. Because you're not from here originally, right?
No. So I am from Savannah, Georgia, and I moved to Texas about in 2011.
Okay.
So 13 years.
About 13 years.
And Houston for about 12 of that.
Yeah. What made you want to come to Texas from Georgia?
I actually went to Dallas to play volleyball.
Oh, okay.
So I did that for about 2 seasons before I decided to. Well, I met my now husband who lived in Houston, and I moved down here, and just kind of.
He converted you.
Yeah. So I was at the time trying to go to medical school, so I just wanted to focus more on my grades. So I kind of hung up my volleyball career, came down here and focused on that, and obviously didn't go to medical school, but that was the plan at the time.
Yeah. Well, I still think it's a really powerful story because you knew when to pivot, right? You had one goal, and then you pivoted. You ended up here in Houston, then you start something, but you pivot, you end up teaching, but then you found something you're very passionate about.
Yes. And I think that is kind of where my career went. It was like I wanted to go to medical school. I became a chemist when I decided not to do med school, became a teacher, and it was like trying to find that right combination of something I'm super passionate about. I wanted full control over my schedule. because the family life that I wanted and having that balance was really important for me.
Yeah, and I think that's important to a lot of people too, Maria, that not only just listen to the podcast, but people in general, that they have this inside of them. They got a job that they can tolerate the job, but it holds them back from, being a parent or whatever it might be, right?
Yes, I could never get on board. I've always been a very strict, rule follower, if you say.
That's why we get along, because I'm not.
Yeah, I always want to show up and give 150% for everything. And so when it came to my job, I never had a problem with listening to authoritative or a boss or whatever, but I just could never get on board with the idea of having to ask permission to take time off.
Yeah.
I'm like this. I don't. It's just important to me to be able to, if I need a sick day or if I want to take time off, no one's going to tell me no. Pretty much.
I love that. That's great. And a couple episodes back, I had Lily on the podcast. We both know Lily, and she was telling me the same thing. That was that's what made her want to go find something to do that wasn't what her career was, because she wanted to be a mom and she wanted to be able to control her schedule. So I think that's and that's a common trend I see. For me, I didn't want to have a boss, which was partially because my boss did not let me at one point go see my family, in New Jersey, right?
It makes you rethink your priorities.
Yeah, it really does.
It's like that, what's the saying? You don't live to work, you work to live.
Yeah.
And it's that whole perspective of I have a life outside of my career and I get to control what that looks like.
That. Yeah. So let's talk about that. So you got in a business. So you've left the security more or less of a paycheck. But you're a mom. You got now 3 kids. Were you expecting when you started your business, or how did that transition?
So transitioning from the steadiness
from teaching into business. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So having that looming over your head as far as you are in control of whether you get paid or not. Yeah. Any business owner understands that risk. Yes, I did have that security of my husband having a stable job.
Sure.
But I'm what I call fiercely independent. So I didn't want to necessarily rely on that.
Yeah.
So I really dove in big time. Yeah. I invested in it from day one. I got all of my ducks in a row, and I just kind of went, full force ahead.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, too, that I started this right after COVID. So this was 2021.
Yeah.
So, it presented its challenges, but at the same time, it's just you make it work if it means getting paid or not. I feel very blessed in the fact that, since day one, I've pretty much been able to pay myself.
That's awesome.
And it's just having the right tools and resources and community in place to make sure that you're being, priced correctly, you're creating boundaries for yourself, and you just kind of roll with the punches.
Sure.
And figure it out.
Sure. So walk me through, being a business owner, being a parent. How do you balance that with your kids?
I literally plan my work schedule around their schedule.
That's awesome.
So my daughter's in school, for example. I don't start my work day until after I get kids where they need to go.
Yeah.
And then we're going to end in time for me to be home for when she needs to go to her activities or my son has his activities or pick them up. So I work only weekdays. It's only during the day. So that I always make sure I have those evenings with them and also weekends and holidays. I work around their schedule.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing that you can control that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
100% recommend.
Yeah. And then, obviously, your youngest, remind me, what's his name again?
My youngest?
Yeah.
Jameson.
Jameson, that's right. So, you had Jameson recently, so how did you make that work while being pregnant, and...
So... I'm not going to lie. Whenever we realized, okay, we're having another one, we were already planning to have another one, but whenever it became reality, you get so focused into your business that, of course, that first concern came in. I'm like, I'm a one-man show for the most part. I have people that work with me, but I do the vast majority of the work.
Right.
So, planning accordingly, of course, but it was actually really nice to take a step back because I've just been so head deep in it for the last few years, that taking 2 months to just be mom was just very fulfilling in that kind of aspect, because it's like it just reminds you to take a step back and understand and remember the reason why you do what you do is to control your schedule, and they're the reason why, you know, I chose this in a way. And so it just kind of refilled my cup, if you will.
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, and so you're a couple years in business now, and and things have things gotten a little bit more steady, or are they still, you know, you're still out there hunting every day, or what does that look like?
Oh, it's always the grind. Yeah. Always. You know, again, it comes down to me controlling whether or not I get paid. So I'm always marketing, always improving, always growing, expanding, changing things up. Because as soon as I stop, even, not gonna lie, like during my maternity leave, I decided to kind of put that on hold.
Right.
And I see the effects of it, you know, down after that. Sure. So we're still kind of getting back in the groove of things now that I'm back. It's been great being off, but now just getting back. But it can very heavily impact your business if you just like stop everything altogether. So it's just always keeping yourself at the forefront of people, you know, on social media and everything else.
Yeah, I was going to say, so what have you been doing, you know, to market yourself? Because again, it's I think it's a lot less taboo today than it was, you know, 10 years ago. But what are you doing to market yourself?
Sure. So I have a Facebook page and a Facebook group where I like to share things. Yeah. Instagram, I have, and then I run ads.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. You know, and so, you know, as you're growing your business and you're talking to more people, you know, have you noticed people a little hesitant to, you know, take photos in that way? Or what have you noticed that people you're talking to, if they're kind of on the fence of whether or not they want to do it?
Sure. So a lot of hesitation is, you know, they see other people doing it and they have a really hard time feeling like they can do it too. Yeah. So that's why a lot of my marketing is just showing before and afters are huge. Yeah. Because they're like, oh, wow, that's like the same person. It's like, yeah, and it's their very first time doing it. Yeah. I do a lot of that heavy lifting for them by helping prepare them fully and how to pose and facial expressions and everything else. So yeah, was that?
Yeah, you know, that's great. You know, and I think, you know, if you had a message for you know, people, or I should, you know, people, whether they're men or women, doesn't really matter, but people looking to get into business for themselves, right? They got kids, they have a spouse that is potentially supportive, you know, and but they have this thing inside of them. It's like there's like itching at them, just like it was for you. Whatever it might be the kid's schedule, it might be being able to take time off, whatever it is, you know. What would be your message to the people that are on the fence? Should I get into business for myself? Should I not get into business? What would be your message for those people?
My message, and this is kind of how I ended up here anyway, is I like to think ahead. I'm like, what would, with the way time goes by faster, especially as you get older. So I think about, for myself, Maria 10 years from now, I don't want to look back and say, man, you should have done it. You would have already been established, successful, everything by now, if you would have just taken that risk. So I'm all about living a life where when I look back on it, I don't want to have that, I wish I would have done it. I wish I would have tried it. Because the worst that could happen is, I mean, sure, it could fail. It might. Sure. But I would rather not have that thought of, I didn't even try.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, and I think I wish a lot more people felt that way. You know, because you know, I'm a big believer in getting a business. That's why you know, that's why I started this podcast, because I wanted to give a voice to those that are getting their business off the ground or getting things moving. I wanted to inspire people, right? Yeah. You know, so I think that's just such a wonderful message, and we're going to wrap up in just a few minutes. Sure. But I wanted to ask, you know, because you've been in business now about 3 years, right?
3.5. Yeah,
about
going on 4. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what, you know, if you're you're a forward thinker, like you just shared. What's the next 4 or 5 years look like for your company?
Yeah, no, I have lots of plans that are in the works right now, because just even a year from now, it's going to look very different.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm still going to be doing boudoir photography.
Yeah, sure.
Like, everything is true with that, but I have ideas for how it's about to expand. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of in the beginning processes of that and gathering the research phase, if you will, gathering those things. But I'm very excited what the next 6 months is going to look like. Wow. And even a year from now, it's going to be a totally different setup. So very exciting things to look forward to.
That's great. And I know you said you have some people that help you out. Do you have a team behind you, or what does that look like? If someone were to come today to a shoot, what would it look like for them?
Sure. So I have a hair and makeup artist that I work with. She does almost everybody in my portfolio. We've gotten to be very good friends through just being a team together. Yeah. And then I do have someone else that helps me with phone conversations, phone consults, giving information. Because I do those too, and I love doing them, but the reality is I don't necessarily have time, especially on shoot days. Sure. So I have someone who is very knowledgeable and knows me very well too. I've known her for 10 plus years. Wow. So yeah, that's kind of what my little team looks like, hopefully expanding soon. Yeah,
very cool. Well, we're going to get ready to wrap up. So Maria, if people want to... maybe there's a spouse out there, right? Because it's predominantly women, correct? That would do boudoir photography,
As a business owner, yes.
No.
Or just in general.
Shoot, yeah.
Oh, yes. It's predominantly women. Men do it as well, but that one is probably I'll guess a lot more taboo. Yeah, not taboo, but
I know what you mean. Less common, right?
But less common,
right?
It's marketed more towards women,
right?
I think.
I agree. But if somebody did want to get involved and they wanted to, either they've heard about it, they might seen some tasteful photos somewhere else, and they think, hey, maybe I can do that, or maybe I can, for whatever reason it might be, right? What would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Sure. So I always recommend someone going to my website first and foremost. I try and keep my portfolio, everything is up to date as possible. Yeah. There's a lot of information on there. So it gives someone a really good, solid sense of what my style is and what they can expect. Yeah. Because every photographer has their own style. And so if they like that aesthetic, then that's what they're going to get. Yeah. So going to my website, and all they would really have to do is fill in the form. Mm-hmm. And I would be reaching out right away to schedule a phone consult so that we can chat on the phone. Because that personal connection to me is key. Yeah. Because if you can't even have a conversation with me, how are you supposed to step in front of my camera in that kind of way? Right. So there's a lot of personal communication and touch points leading up to the photo shoot.
I'll put it in the show notes, but what is your website, just for everyone to hear?
Sure. So it's www.blackdiamondboudoirstudio.com.
That's awesome. And if let's say that there's a soon-to-be husband, or maybe a spouse that would want to encourage their partner to do something for themselves. By the way, not for the spouse, right?
Sure.
Well, what would be something that they might be able to say to give their partner a little nudge? What do you think?
So I always market it and also just recommend coming at it from a perspective of, you already kind of started on it, is to do it for you. Yeah. So as a spouse, don't say, honey, you should do this for me. Yeah. No. Make it about them, because and it's not just a facade to say that. It really is for them. Be like, I feel like maybe this might give you that little extra confidence, or if it's not a confidence thing, but just they're busy. I'm a busy mom. I know how that feels to just be like, why don't you just take a day for yourself? Even say, my treat. I'll treat you to a whole day if you're just willing to go give it a shot and try it. And if anything, just have a conversation with her, and she can give you more info on what to expect.
That's great. Well, Maria, I appreciate you being here, guys. We're gonna wrap up. Thank you guys for plugging into the Unleash Your Potential podcast. Listen, if you're not following us, what's going on, right? You need to follow us. Go check us out on YouTube at Unleash Your Potential _podcast, or on Instagram with the same tag. You can find us on Spotify. We're still at war with Apple Podcasts. We'll figure that out eventually, but we'll be back again real soon in Houston for more Unleash Your Potential. Remember to level up and be the best version of yourselves. Houston, we're out.